Hi again and welcome back. Today's top story, we're going to focus a little bit on something that affects all of us, regardless of what city that you live in. Most recently, we've been talking quite a bit about the budget here in Sault Ste. Marie. To help us understand how the process goes is CAO Al Horsman. First of all, how long have you been CAO now?
I'm in my fourth year, actually. It's
goodness.
amazing. Time goes by very quickly, but it's been a really exciting time. A lot of things going on, as you know, in this community. So it's been interesting. It's been fun.
Now, just for my own benefit, does the CAO, is that a contract position? Is it a hiring process? How does that go?
Well, there is a hiring process. It's a
just like
contract position.
Job.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay.
But there is a contract position associated with it, or contract associated with it.
Okay, perfect. So talk about the budget. Slight increase. How does the process go? Because I think we were talking a little bit earlier. I hear the word budget and I just kind of glaze over. And I think a lot of us are the same way because, first of all, it's intimidating because of all the numbers and all the bylaws and everything else that's involved. And then also, generally, when we think budget, we think, okay, taxes are going up.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the process and how you get to the place you get to.
Well, it's actually a very long process. It's not just 2 nights. Like in this particular case, February 4th, February 5th, if necessary, will be when the budget is actually deliberated by council. But it starts well before that. We're usually sometimes in the spring that we will start internally to look through all of our accounts, look through all of our program areas, make sure that what's happening from an actual standpoint relative to budget, and start putting together a plan that we'll bring forward to council. So it's very early in the year, internal to administration, that we start that process. We actually then come to council in the fall. Normally this year, because of the election, it's a little bit later, but we would then come to council in the fall with a final sort of preliminary draft budget. And that draft budget is really just saying, if we were to do the same things this year, in the next year, what would it cost?
Oh, okay, so this is the same picture,
same picture.
It would look like.
So in 2019, for this budget, it's if we were to deliver the same services as we did in 2018, what would it look like in 2019? And that was the preliminary budget, and that got brought forward.
That sounds so much simpler than how I was thinking. So then at that point, people must start to input what they need, different agencies, different services. Is that what happens after the preliminary?
There's what I was describing was for our departmental basis,
Okay.
but we also make assumptions based on conversations with the other agencies and the local boards and the levies, because the city itself, the departments are a part of the budget. Of course, we get best way to describe it, from the levy boards, it's a bill, and it just comes to us, like the Algoma Public Health, for example. They will have a budget, it gets passed by their board, and then our contribution share is paid. The Regional Conservation Authority is a board, they have a levy. Our contribution share, once that's approved, is paid by us. We don't really have much in the way of influence.
So that you just trust them?
There's membership on the boards that council provides, so there is some opportunity for the city to express its interests relative to what that levy ends up being. But at the end of the day, once it's passed, it comes to us, and the city is responsible for paying its contribution share, because those types of levies go beyond the boundaries of Sault Ste. Marie. But we make assumptions about that, and we have board members that are appointed by council on it, so we know sort of where they're going to go. So that is included in terms of the preliminary number that's put in front of council, along with our departmental budgets that we've worked on from, like I say, the spring right through. So this year, the amount that was identified there is 3.57%, as for us to be able to undertake the same activities in 2019 as 2018. Of that, these city departments are only about 2 and a bit percent. The rest is relating to the levy boards and the local boards and their amounts that they're looking for. They presented actually last night to council, so the council had a good flavor as to what is in those budgets.
Now, what do you do with those big surprises, or do you get them?
We get surprises.
I bet.
We get a number of surprises. One of the biggest surprises right now is, of course, the provincial government. With a new government in place, they're actively looking at what they described as a $15 billion deficit. So that has implications for all of their grant programs. So they're taking a very strong look at what they give to, and in our particular case, one of the big ones is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, the ONPF it's called, which normally is about $15 million that we receive from the province. We've received an interim payment, but of course we also received a letter saying they're reviewing the program, and so we're not sure where it's going to go. We're expecting and believe it should be whole, at least for this year, and then have the province work with us if it is that they want to make any adjustments to that in 2020 and beyond. So we're assuming we're still going to be kept whole, but you never know. So those are the types of things that are surprises if it is that they come through.
How much input do you have? Like if you get really kind of sideswiped, is there something that you can do about it as a city?
As a municipality?
Yeah.
Well, we have advocacy efforts that we can do. There's
Okay.
an Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is the AMO group that operates on behalf of all municipalities and puts forward concerns if they exist and when there's shifts in funding levels. For other areas, we have control over user fees, so that's a component of the budget. The budget itself is roughly about $185 million, but 70 million of that is user fees and other revenue sources. So we do have the opportunity to increase those user fees at a modest level to help offset the costs of providing those services. So they do exist. So we do have some opportunity to manage the pressures that take place. And we've been fairly effective at it too, because we have the budgets over the last 4 years are averaging maybe, it's less than inflation in terms of particularly the departmental budgets. Again, for the outside agencies and local boards, it's a little bit of a different scenario for them because it just comes to us as an expense. But for those that we can control within the departments, we've been very good. We've been effective at providing continuous improvement, providing efficiency measures to be able to offset those general pressures that always take place.
You know, I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people don't understand that there are set levies that you receive, and that's just the way it is, and there's not a lot that you can negotiate around that.
Well, there's those issues, but there's also, we're legislated on a number of different fronts, and so there's minimum service levels and standards that we need to apply. So what we also have, we're restricted in terms of what we can or cannot do to adjust for those. So where we're mandated to do programs or activities, we must do them. And if those costs of providing that increases, it's really not much we can do to control it. What we can control when that happens, though, is the more discretionary type of expenditures and see what we can do to maybe shift those to be able to offset some of the things we get in the mandatory programs.
Sounds like such a big picture. My goodness, to keep track of everything.
It's quite something, but there's a lot of people that are involved, a tremendous number of people that are involved. We have a very strong finance team. We have a great senior management team that are always on top of everything and always looking at, almost daily at their operations to see what they can do differently, see how they might be able to adjust for any pressures that come within the year and from year to year. So it gels. And we have a great mayor and council who are very supportive, and the previous mayor and council, this mayor and council, they're very active and they're very showing that they really want to understand and they have good questions.
That has to help, right?
It helps us immensely as well. And I think it helps them too in terms of when they're dealing with their constituents, because they can show, like, this is why it is that we're having the pressures, and this is what it is that we're doing to be able to adjust for them. So it's a very, yes, it is. It can be quite a large undertaking, and there is a number of people, but it does work well overall. There's little glitches that always take place, but at the end of the day, it's a very, very good and very robust process.
You know what I thought was brilliant, and I don't know if this was the first time this happened. I tend to think that it wasn't. The public information sessions where the public was invited to give some input as to what they would like to see on the budget.
That actually has been around for a few years.
Is that right?
Yes, and we've looked at a number of different avenues to do that, because it's really important that the public provides their input as well. So we have on our website, Sue Budget. If you go to that link, you'll be able to find a model that we've put up there that you can actually go in and play around and see, like, if you wanted to
Really?
do your own budget, go in and make some changes and see what it looks like. We have, of course, actual physical input sessions. So
Yes.
we had one just last Wednesday, where members of the public were welcome to come, and we had our senior management team there to answer questions and to provide oversight to
Were you happy
activities.
with turnout?
We would like to see more.
Right.
There's, I think it's like you say, people hear budget and they just,
they just, oh.
you know,
And I
like,
think too that a lot of people think that they don't have a say. It's so much bigger than me that they're not going to listen to me. But that's not the case.
it's not the case at all. We're very interested in what the public would have to say and what it is that they're looking for in terms of their services. Mayor and council are very interested. They're being elected to be able to represent those ideas. And in fact, the last budget town hall meeting that we had a number of councillors that attended that session, and it was very strong, very good from that perspective as well. But yeah, there is a say, and it does influence. Oftentimes we can get, sometimes, I hate to say this, I shouldn't be saying this, but we have sometimes as staff that we get caught that we're doing our things and we don't realize that maybe
You're overlooking something.
We
'Cause
might be
you're
overlooking
busy.
something.
Yeah,
And so
sure.
these ideas are always helpful to us, but they're particularly helpful because they give the sort of flavor of what the municipality is looking for in terms of the services that are being rendered and the quality of those services that are being provided.
And as we've been talking about how people are intimidated by it and think it's such a huge and they don't have any input, for them to be reassured that their opinion does count is something that's so important, I would think, in a democracy.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, that's exactly it. It's a democratic process, and it's important to be transparent, and we're legislated to be so, but we want to be so anyways. We want to make sure that it's an understanding and it's a collective community effort to be able to have a sound, fiscally sound, and well-managed budget for a sustainable community. And so it is important that people are involved in that process.
Now, if somebody is not happy with a particular part of the budget, is it a good idea for them to go to the website and try and put forth their opinion, or should they talk to their council member? Should they call you at work? What's your phone number?
There's a number of different avenues. As I say, if you go into the website for Sue Budget, you'll see the link there. We also have, I think it's hashtag Sue Budget. We do it on the social media as well. You can phone, there's a number that's provided on the website, but you can call the finance department with providing some input that you have there. The town hall's already happened, but that was another forum you have. And on the website, there's an actual program, as I indicated earlier, that allows someone to go in and actually physically go in and say, this is what I would like to see in terms of the service profile.
And somebody actually looks at that.
And well, yes, we definitely.
Awesome.
And we not only look at it, we also summarize all that and bring it forward to what's called the Finance and Audit Committee, which is a committee of council that's represented by councillors, but also by members of the public that are appointed. And they look at it and they make recommendations to council based on what they see from those exercises. So yeah, there's a number of different avenues available to people to.
Now,
to
last night
say
we
their
dealt
piece.
with the budget, huge at City Council, very much a big part of the agenda. What's the next step now?
So last night was the local boards, the levy boards, and the contracted services. So those groups were the ones that are saying what they did for their budgets for their respective areas. So again, the Sault Ste. Marie District Social Services Administration Board, Algoma University, Algoma Public Health, and the Regional Conservation Authority. So they were all just presenting what their budgets were
I
about.
see.
On February 4th, we will start a deliberation on the whole of the budget, as including those groups that were there last night, but also including our departmental budgets that we're bringing forward. And there'll be presentations for each of the departments and service areas within the corporation. And there's already been a presentation with the preliminary budget that was tabled at the meeting of January 14th that shows overall how that leads up to being 3.57 and what some of the assumptions in there that are at risk or not at risk going forward. And so on the 4th of February, it will be a conversation with council, and we'll be going through all the presentations, and then they'll be going through and making deliberations and making motions about what they do or do not want to approve relative to the capital and the operating budgets that have been brought forward for their consideration.
So do you have a deadline? Like when you start your budget process, do you say by April 1st we'll have it complete?
We have a deadline. We go to council actually to set a schedule with them in terms of the
I see.
council meetings. And then once that's set, we work internal to administration to put together our plan of how we're going to be able to have everything ready to be able to
Right.
be in a position
Coordinate
to go
everybody.
to be able and coordinate everybody to be able to be in a position to sit in front of council and have the discussion when they're ready to see the actual budgets, preliminary budget, and then the sort of final budget for approval. Again, this year, because of the election, it came into the new year, but as was started a few years back, we try and have everything finalized by December. That gives us a full year to work with our new budget. We found that by going in part years, if it is that we had unexpected things happen, to be able to adjust for them, we didn't have a full year to be able to make changes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right, so
Right.
if we didn't get a budget approved till April, that could impact us.
There's a lot of time left.
There's only so many months left to be able, if it is that we were to have make a major adjustment, so that was
Right.
hard. We also found from a capital standpoint, by having the capital projects approved further in advance, allowed us to go into market earlier, so as to be able to get competitive bids and be able to get the work underway early in the year, as opposed to, sometimes it will be June before we might get a project started, and our weather season's here. But
Well, sure.
it
Affects everything.
It affects everything, so we had that brought forward. So normally it's December that we look to have the budget finalized, and so everything's worked back from there. As I said, spring with administration, working through the summer, putting
Yeah.
together packages, working with our partners, doing the collaboration with the outside agencies and the local boards and levies, and putting a final package together and then bringing it forward to table with council and then to actually deliberate with council.
Well, I'm so glad you came by and sort of cleared this up. I know that I'm less intimidated now.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Glad I
such,
could help.
And it's also really good to reinforce that people do have a say and that you will be heard. So that's important. That's kind of the main reason why we want to talk to Al this
Yeah.
morning. Thank you so much.
Well, no, thank you. Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Come back
Appreciate
and see us again.
it. Will do.
We'll be back right after this.
Thank you.